Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to this video. And in this video guys, we're gonna learn how to use unions inside our C program. So from the previous tutorial, we learned how to define and use structure. And then we also implemented different methods or different functions that we could use whenever we are working with structure, right? So at this point in time, we will be learning how to use union also. So basically, union and structure is almost the same, but there's a significant difference that we will discuss later on. So the thing about structure is that we can store different data types in different memory location. But when we say union, we can store different data types in the same memory location. So that being said, if we try to define union, a union is a special data type available in C that will allow us to store different data types in the same memory location. So you can define a union with many members, but only one member can contain a value at any given time. That's because we store the data inside the same memory location. So in other words, all the members of the union share the same memory location. That's why every time we set a value to a particular member of the union, other values will be erased and then replaced with the new value of a particular member. So to define a union, you must use the union statement. So from the previous tutorial, we used struct for the structure. But in the case of defining a union, we will define a union by using the union statement in the same way as you did while defining the structure. And the union statement defines a new data type with more than one member for your program. So basically, it looks like this, but instead of struct, you're gonna use union. Okay, so that's union, and then of course the name of your union, for example, data, right there, and then you have to add open and close curly braces. That signifies that all the variable inside these curly braces is a member of the union data. Okay, and then of course we can define the members here. So the same thing with our structure. So that being said, we can say here int I. Okay, and then we could also add float f, and then say for example char str, and basically for example the length for this is like 10. Okay, so let me show you first how this particular union works. So the union tag is optional actually, and each member definition is a normal variable definition, so such as I or int I or float f or any other valid variable definition. And at the end of the union's definition, before the final semicolon, you can specify one or more union variables, but it is optional. So you can also say here the name of your union is like data. Okay, so you can refer to this data, and then you now have the access to the members of your union by using this reference. Okay, now a variable of data type can store integer, float, or string of characters. So it means a single variable and then same memory location can be used to store multiple types of data. So you can use any built-in or user-defined data types inside a union based on your requirement. So it depends on you. So the memory occupied by a union will be large enough to hold the largest member of the union. So for example, in this particular code, data type will occupy 10 bytes of memory space because this is the maximum space which can be occupied by a character string. Now, we can display the values of this union. So for example, we try to display all the, any value coming from this union. So at first we could, refer to the members by using this reference. So data dot, and then we could say here I, then we could initialize this value into, for example, 5, like that. And then we could print the value of I. So here we could say the value of I is, and then of course we need to have the format specifier for our I. Okay, so D, and then we could add also the new line, and then comma, and then of course data dot I. Okay, and then semicolon. So let's try to run our program. So basically, let's hope that we won't have problems. So build and run our program, and as you can see here, the value of I is 5. So we were able to set the value of our data I member and initialize it to 5. Now take a look at this. For example, we set the value of float into a something, into some value. For example, data dot f equals to, for example, let's say 22 or maybe like 8. Okay, and then we could try to maybe add 8.5 here just to make sure that it is kind of like float value. So we set the value of our f into 8.5. So we could, build and run our application. And as you can see here, we're getting the value of I is something like this. Okay, so the value of I is something like this. That's because the value has been, corrupted when we try to set the member f into something like 8.5. And as you can probably remember that the members of the union share the same memory location. So that's why if we try to change the value of a certain member, then it will override the value of the other member. So that's why it's somehow corrupted our value of I here, and we're getting this random number like this. But the purpose of using union actually is to have a some sort of a value at a certain point of time. So for example, if we want to make use of the union, we could try to display the value of I right here after the initialization. So the value of I is, and then we're getting the value of I member here. And then also if we want to, display the value of the float f value or member from this union, then what we could do here is change this into f. That's the formal specifier for a float value. And then we could say here we want to display the member f from the data union. So we could actually get the correct value right after this. So let's try to run this. So build and run our application, and as you can see here, we're getting the value of our I is 5. So let's change this. Instead of I, this is member F, and this is member I, because this is a member of this union. So let's build and run our application, and we're getting this output. The value of member I is equal to 5, and then the value of member F is equal to 8.5. So that's basically the correct value that we're getting, or we're setting here in our main function. Okay, so I think that's all there is to it for this tutorial. And as a sort of summary or review, we have learned how to use union inside our C program, and then we learn that we can store different data types in the same memory location by using this union keyword, and then store different variables with different data types. And yeah, we also set and initialize the value of the members of our union, and then also display the values individually right here in our C program. So again, that's all there is to it, guys. And if you have questions, please let us know in the comment section below. And thank you again for watching, and see you in the next video.